Hello everyone, my name is Brad and welcome back to the Dividend Reaper YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do part 2 of an ongoing series that reviews The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, teacher of Warren Buffett. If you have not already watched video 1, I strongly suggest jumping back to episode 1 that goes over chapter 1, and then of course moving your way through the series so that way you can do it in chronological order. With that being said, also if you like this video, if you like this channel, do not forget to hit the like, comment, and subscribe for more in the future. But with that being said, I'll click off my video here so that way you can see the full slides, and we'll start going through chapter 2 of The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. All right. Chapter 2 is The Investor and Inflation. Basically, in this chapter, he talks a lot about inflation and how this can influence the investor and the decisions that you have to make as far as your portfolio is concerned. Inflation, if you are not aware, is basically, in layman's terms, the shrinkage of value of your currency. So if you had $10 today, inflation is basically saying that typically, moving forward, your $10 today or your $10 in the future is not worth what your $10 is today. It's a shrinkage of your value of currency. Graham argues that the investor should assume a rate of inflation of 3% per year. There's a lot of people that would argue with this. Just going to put that out there. But he basically argues that the investor should assume the rate of inflation of 3% per year. Not a really, not a bad motto to live by, obviously. I feel like it's just a little bit high. I would say more so about 2%, but Graham argues that he feels it's about 3%. Additionally, it may seem that stocks would combat inflation better than bonds, but there really isn't any kind of guarantee. Historical support does not guarantee future support on what will actually beat. As an alternative to common stocks, Graham talks about what investors might do if you were not to invest in common stocks as your way of preparing for the future. Um, he talks about how some investors have attempted to avoid losses through means such as gold, which obviously the past has proven to us that there is a minimal rise in value of things like gold specifically. There's been a minimal rise in value, and of course, it has storage expenses, and historically, it has not even gotten close to outpacing bank rates, which says a lot, considering bank rates are not good. So, gold obviously is argued as being out. Numerous other items, however, have been invested into. Paintings, cards, collectibles, basically, is what he's talking about. But few people who invest in these alternatives items have the necessary skills and knowledge to accurately predict the future value of these items. What is he talking about? Basically, he's talking about if you are perchance a sport card collector, if you are a wine collector for the purpose of investments, to try to buy it now, assuming that it will grow in value over time. Graham argues that these alternatives to common stocks, basically, if you're not in that field and you don't have a lot of knowledge on that item or that series of items, you probably shouldn't invest in it. He argues be sure the field is yours before you attempt to invest in it, specifically pertaining to items, of course. Stocks you can learn how to invest in. That being said, the overall conclusion of chapter 2 is that investors cannot afford to put all their eggs in one basket when fighting against inflation. However, it appears that historically stocks hold more protection against inflation than bonds do. This would seemingly put to rest the argument, or at least per Graham's advice and his taking of what his uh, research had basically brought him to, is that bonds themselves are great, but stocks are better. It's kind of what it all comes down to when you're fighting inflation, because stocks obviously have numerous benefits over bonds. But I mean, there's always a lot of investors who would argue that bonds are great too, and that a mix is great as well. But I'm here today just to talk about what we're getting from the intelligent investor. And generally, Graham's advice through this section and through this chapter is that stocks hold more protection against inflation than bonds do. That being the case, that is a super, super macro view of chapter 2 of the intelligent investor. If you agree with this advice, post a comment. If you don't believe in this advice, if you think that he is way off basis, post a comment as well. Start some discussion. Additionally, if you liked this video, make sure to hit that like, hit subscribe, maybe even hit that bell icon, get updates in the future of when I'll be posting, so that way you all can keep up with me. That being the case, it has been my pleasure once again to bring this to you and to review, and always just to update you guys and bring videos to the masses. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.